This video is coming from pieces of the short story Disturbance from the Star Wars novel A Certain Point of View, and though I won't be reading through the entire thing, just covering pieces of it to give you understanding and paint a picture really. If you'd like to read the whole thing for yourself, it can be found in the story Disturbance from the book A Certain Point of View, The Empire Strikes Back. Emperor Palpatine felt a great disturbance in the Force. It erupted clear as a ship emerging from hyperspace, sending shock waves through the dark and the light, the cold and the flame. He closed his eyes, and despite being physically surrounded by pitch black, doing so gave him sight. He was no longer seated in the cold, lightless chamber hidden far below the former Jedi Temple, a place he used to deepen his mastery of the dark side. If you'd like to know more about this place, we have a video discussing the Sith Shrine hidden beneath the Jedi Temple. If you'd like to check it out, I'll link it down below. Instead, he felt the sheer violence of the Force, the rise and fall of its infinite currents, something only a true Sith Lord would dare to invite in. Some time had passed since a disturbance had erupted with this magnitude, when a spike in the Force had let the galaxy slip from Palpatine's oversight. It was a tiny blink, the slightest movements from one being's finger, but in that instance, the finger pulled the trigger at a very specific time, flying at a very specific velocity and altitude, thus allowing proton torpedoes to launch and hurl through a small exhaust port. How that spike came to be, Palpatine remained unsure. Only vague certainties appeared despite his efforts. There was a pilot, one in the rebellion, one that flew an X-Wing during that battle, one that pulled that trigger. But that pilot's connection to the Force, it remained a mystery, even up until moments ago. Then, everything changed. The Force surged. What Palpatine saw in the Force should have frightened him. On the floor of his office in the Imperial capital lay the bodies of two royal guards, their severed red helmets tossed across the space. Next to them, a stoic, cold, intimidating figure stood, just as the Sith of legend, with power emanating from its very breath. His black cloak hid any identifying details other than he seemed to be a young boy. Palpatine watched as the figure circled the room until he came to a large chair. From the chair, another hooded figure arose, a doppelganger of Darth Sidious himself. The vision of Palpatine waited as his attacker raised his lightsaber. The two dark figures engaged in combat, using the Force against one another. The attacker attempted to choke out Palpatine before the Sith Lord used his powerful Force lightning to retaliate. Palpatine could feel the power of his doppelganger, however, his power wasn't enough to overpower the assailant. The vision of Palpatine fell to his knees, and suddenly there was another voice. "Do it," it said. The lightsaber lunged forward and pierced through the fallen Emperor. His attacker removed his hood, revealing the young face of a boy with pursed lips over a cleft chin, blue eyes, and unkempt blonde hair that had seen too many days in the sun. The Emperor's body collapsed, and silence filled the room. Instead of being frightened or threatened, Palpatine found the vision intriguing, and he was curious. "You have done well." Palpatine heard the other mysterious voice once again. It was a strange feeling. Palpatine felt as if he were a dreamer in this instance. No, not the dreamer, tapping into the real dreamer's vision. Palpatine now recognized that other voice, one he hadn't heard in decades. Anakin Skywalker. It didn't even surprise Palpatine that Vader dreamed of overthrowing him, but what was the connection to this boy? Palpatine continued his journey through the Force, and realized that this wasn't a mere vision of Lord Vader, it was a delusion. Palpatine finally saw the full form of Anakin, not the hulking Sith in black armor, but the young man he once knew and groomed to be his apprentice, all those years ago, before Mustafar, before the life-threatening injuries. But if this was Vader's delusion, then only one thing would make it complete. The figure of Padme Amidala paused in her movements. She turned to Anakin and then the young boy who was also present, and she smiled at them. Finally, the boy spoke, with soft affection in his voice. "Father," he said, and then looked to Padme. "Mother." Finally, Palpatine saw things for what they truly were. The disturbance. He began to understand. But how long had Vader known? "Luke," Vader said, "you have done well." The ground began to shake. White began to bleed into every corner of space until it swallowed everything up, until there was only Darth Vader and his son, Luke. Palpatine had seen enough. The culmination of Vader's relentless nature and his inability to free himself from his past was too powerful to hide from the dark side. Just as he couldn't contain his own impulses when facing Kenobi on Mustafar, he now exposed the secret he held most dear. But who was this Luke Skywalker truly? Palpatine would uncover that in time. If Vader wanted to find his son, Palpatine would let him. In fact, he would do everything in his power to accommodate that. Vader would search, and Palpatine would plan, waiting for Vader to make a mistake that Palpatine could capitalize on, step in and exploit. He would be the one to propel Luke to the true potential of his Skywalker bloodline, over his father's final rasping breath. Palpatine was back from his journey through the Force, back from his journey of an unimaginable discovery. He tapped a button on his chair and he spoke to the voice who reacted. "Summon Lord Vader," he said. "We have matters to discuss." Several minutes passed before the holographic lines connected and Palpatine saw his apprentice kneeling before him. "What is thy bidding, my master?" the deep voice said. Palpatine could feel the battle within Vader. After all of these years, Vader's heart still beat with the fire of Anakin Skywalker, a fire that Palpatine would put to the test. "There is a great disturbance in the Force," he said.